is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today there has been a massive trade from the Minnesota Vikings as well as the Houston Texans. So we'll break that down. This is going to be a 3-round mock draft broken up into 2 different days. Yes, today I'm doing round 1. Tomorrow I'm doing rounds 2 and 3. So yes, this is a 3-round mock draft. If you see a 3-round mock draft that's actually going to be broken down into, 3 rounds in 40-something minutes, don't look at the video. I mean, there's no reason. You're not going to learn anything from it. So let's get right into this. Let's have a great time. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is super unique, and it is always changing, but it is always honest. Below that are all the great ways to get involved in the community and be able to take advantage of our 2 sponsors, Olipop as well as UnderDog Fantasy. So take advantage of those codes, save some money, make some money, enjoy yourselves, and just have a good time. Let's go. So starting out with the first overall selection, we have the Chicago Bears, and, this to me is a straight-up Caleb Williams pick. The question is, who are we sending Justin to, right? And, there's a plethora of teams that I think would be in the market for Justin, but, they've been sliding away very, very quickly, which is, to me, honestly, quite a shocker. I think a team like the Broncos could be trying to, snag a later pick for him, but also the Raiders, Getsy. It's kind of stupid to pair him back up, but there's not really many options more available. Technically, you could talk also about the Saints being an open target for Justin Fields, and I think that'd be a smart move. But, there's not that many targets that I think would be viable. Technically, yes, you could talk about the Vikings, but since they traded that trade, they looks like they're going to try to move up for their guy. I'm going to try to trade Justin Fields in this. It's really not going to affect the mock draft because it's not even going to be for a 3rd-round pick. Based on the the trading value at the moment, I think that Justin actually might just be worth a 4th, if not less. So we will be actually doing a quick little trade here with the Raiders because they have a quarterback competition there right now. AOC is a great quarterback to have on roster, but I don't think it would be the end of the world if he ends up being a QB3. So we are actually going to be trading with the Raiders. We're going to be trading Justin, and it actually might end up just being pick 148 and then a conditional 5th. I don't really think it's very much. The Bears need to gain draft capital pretty damn desperately as well. So I think this is just a smart move for both sides. It's a conditional 5th. That would become probably a 3rd if Justin Fields gets re-signed for that 5th-year contract. So, or whatever contract goes out. Not going to affect the mock draft anyways. Just want to get that out of the way so that we can go Caleb Williams at number 1. At number 2, I think the Commanders stick and pick. They just traded away Sam Howell. We did factor that in because actually if you guys are doing a PFF mock draft, they did not update it for that Sam Howell trade. Just got to tell you guys that right now. If you're making your own mock drafts, watch out for that because it could totally change how your mock drafts end up turning out if you do 7-round mock drafts. So I am going to be going after Drake Maye, quarterback out of North Carolina. There is a sentiment that he ends up being a QB3, QB4 in this draft. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. I think it's smokescreen season just so teams maybe make some mistakes with trading up or, just don't plan accordingly. Washington has made a lot of moves this offseason. I think Drake Maye would be a great addition to this squad. They need to boost their tackle help as well as their edge rushing crew, but Drake Maye is a solid foundation to have. At pick number 3, we got the New England Patriots, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is here. I'd love to go Marvin Harrison Jr., but according to Daniel Jeremiah, there is a very strong sentiment that 4 of the top 6 picks are going to be quarterback. I don't know, because again, we are in smokescreen season, how true that is. But I do think the Patriots need a quarterback, and I think Jayden Daniels is a really good one, and they have a Wainu back, so their offensive line is getting slowly back to legitimate competition level, so I love that. We're going to go Jayden Daniels. Arizona would be stupid to go after, to go after Marvin Harrison Jr. The pass on Marvin Harrison Jr. here at pick number 4, just traded away Rondale Moore for a backup QB when you don't have wide receiver as it is. Not the best move. So I'm going to go after Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Get your wide receiver of the future. Maybe you have your quarterback of the future in Desmond Ridder. I never was a Desmond Ridder guy, so I'm going to be a little bit salty about that. But here, pick number 5. Y'all have already been getting on my ass for going after tackle for the Chargers yesterday before the Keenan Allen trade. Y'all know my feelings about Tali Fuaga. You can look at my board below my face. He's my number 1 tackle. He's not going to be the selection here at 5. But for those of y'all who think I am biased, because I don't know why, it's like, I'm just honest. I really like Tali Fuaga. Just got to put that out there. But this is going to be the trade. Everyone's going to say, no, not Malik Neighbors. Like, you can't pass on him. But I can. And I love Malik Neighbors. I have a top 16 receivers video out that you can check out. It is like damn near 40, 50 minutes. And it breaks down every single receiver in depth. Check it out. Same thing with the corners. That's already out. So it'd be very exciting, in my opinion, for that. This is going to be the Minnesota Vikings trade. And y'all have gotten on my ass before for trade value. And I respect that. And I love you for it. Because you need to hold me accountable. It makes good content for you and good content for me if I'm actually putting out accurate content. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time and yours. So if you end up looking at the proper trade value for these picks, I actually have it up over on this computer screen because, you know, every pro has to have multiple computer screens, right? Pro. The Chargers picks worth 1,700 points. Technically, pick 11 is worth 1,250. Pick number 23 is worth 760. Not mistaken, that adds up to roughly about, 1210 or 2010. And so 2010 compared to 1,700 is a 310 point gap. When you look at the trade value, that would be roughly a late second round pick. I'm going to say because the Chargers are passing on their own wide receiver of the future, we very well might have to toss in pick number 69, which, as nice as that is, I mean, that is still significantly cheaper. Pick 69 is 245. We need 310. So that's essentially worth an extra 4th round pick that, we are saving. So realistically, it should be this. But I'm going to be polite to the Chargers. I'm going to give Minnesota their day 2 pick back. But the Chargers now in a great position. You're going to have 2 first-round picks. You're not losing quantity. You're boosting your quality as well. And the Minnesota Vikings are paying a tax to jump the Minnesota Vikings are paying to jump themselves. No, they're paying to jump the New York Giants. So that is going to be the trade right there. They did pay essentially a 4th round pick extra in tax. The Vikings just basically telegraphed that they're going to be moving up for a QB. They save a little bit of draft capital by not having to move up into the top 3, and they get their guy in J.J. McCarthy. J.J. is not my QB4, but, it is what it is. But quick little conversation about that pick. The Vikings ended up trading, I think it was upwards in pick 188 territory, plus what was their other pick? 2nd round next year, as well as, they ended up getting, they traded their 2nd round pick to be able to, so 2 seconds in a late round pick for a late round pick, as well as pick 23 from the Texans. Texans, we'll talk about that when we get to their pick, which will be tomorrow. Again, 2 days, 3 rounds. But we'll, I'm not a huge fan of it, bottom line. Pick number 6 for the Giants, though. I think they're going to stick and pick. There's nobody who's going to be trying to offer to move up here. Malik Neighbors would be foolish to pass on. I just don't think they have a true number 1 wide receiver. And if you miss out on J.J. McCarthy, miss out. Going after Malik Neighbors is a very smart thing to do. At pick 7, we got the Tennessee Titans, and they're going to go Joe Alt here. They're almost guaranteed Joe Alt, which is a surprise. He is the best left tackle in the class. Remember, left tackles and right tackles are not the same, and they don't always translate over to the other side as well as they played on their native side. Joe Alt is a true left tackle. I don't know why people think that this dude just switches positions like it's nothing. And even the guys who do not always do too well on the other side. So Joe Alt is going to be an elite pairing, though, with Peter Skoronski. I love it to death for the Titans. At pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons are here. They've done a great job retooling their franchise in terms of the receiving core. They added another wide receiver as well. It's slipping my mind, but, I think it might have been Ray McLeod. Essentially a gadget guy when they ended up losing Cordero Patterson. But, it used to be like, Rome Odunze or edge rusher with Dallas Turner. But I think now it's down to Dallas Turner and Terrion Arnold. You could say Quinion Mitchell as well. But I do think this team is going to really value that edge rushing presence. I trust that, Raheem Morris could probably snipe edge rusher down the board, but this corner class is phenomenal. I'm going to be happy with the talent that I could get in round 2 specifically for Atlanta, because you're going to be getting a top talent in Dallas Turner. At pick 9 for the Chicago Bears, we ended up getting that little Justin Fields trade there with Vegas and got pick 148 from it. So we're adding picks. We're really low on it. Ended up getting a beautiful wide receiver in Keenan Allen. Ring, ring. What the hell? Who's calling? It is the Los Angeles Chargers again. That was completely lame, I know. The Los Angeles Chargers are saying, yo, the Jets, I'm worried that they're going to be taking Romo Dunze, and we need a wide receiver. So let's trade again. We were just on the phone. Let's chat about it again. So from pick 11 to pick 9, it is a, what is it? Pick number 11 is 1250. Pick number 9 is 1350. That's a 100-point differential. Not bad. Looking at about 100-point differential, that starts at pick 100. That's 100 points, right? So I think pick number 105 is perfectly fine in this situation. Maybe you toss in 253 as well, because 253 is, a point. Whoop-de-doo. But it basically gives the Bears a little bit more flexibility. The Chargers, I think, would be very smart to do this. Essentially, pick number 105 is like 84 points. I could get a little bit more greedy, throw in 225 in here, because that's roughly a couple more points than 253. You can do your math. I mean, 181, if you're going to be that desperate, it's not going to affect the mock draft. 181 would actually end up being 19 points. So if you really want to get a little bit more of a stickler about it, actually, that's a better trade value, because 105 is technically worth 84 points. Probably would be a little bit more reasonable to go after 105 and 181. And it's good for both sides, honestly. The Chargers have some good depth picks. The Bears, they get theirs. And the Chargers move up for their star wide receiver. So the Bears ended up trading their 4th round pick. They ended up getting a 4th round pick in return. So essentially, it's almost free. You'll see what we'll be doing there with the Bears. But the Jets are sitting here and being like, damn, there's not very many good options here. And there are some talented corners on the board. And I know some teams that the Jets have traded with that have a lot of draft capital, because let's look at the draft capital for this team. It's not that great. Their phone is going to be ringing. I guess it's over here. The Bears don't even have that great a draft capital right now, even though we still ended up getting a very solid deal for them. But the Jets still lack that draft capital. They lack that 2nd round pick. I think I know a team that'll be ringing their line. And that team is going to be the Green Bay Packers. They have a ton of draft capital, a ton of it. So when you look at the price of this trade, so pick number 25 is about 720 points. Pick 41 is worth 490. So you add that together, that's what, like 1210? If not like quick maths. 1210, and pick number 10 is 1300. So you need about 90 points in there. And 90 points is about pick 103. I'm going to toss in pick 91. That's a little bit extra in terms of the overall points needed. So maybe we'll toss in pick 135 in return. If you actually do the math there, technically New York is giving up still a little bit more in terms of draft capital. That's about 40 points. And then 91 is 136. It's a fair trade. If you look at the point value, it's a fair trade. The Packers don't need that many picks. Just to be blunt, they just don't really have that many issues. And they get to move up and select a superstar corner. Rather than praying that Cooper DeJean falls to you, end up being aggressive and get the guy that you really need. Quinyon Mitchell is just so phenomenal. It allows Jair to be very flexible in his role. And with the new defensive coordinator being more man and press focused, Quinyon Mitchell is going to be phenomenal. At pick number 11 for the Chicago Bears, we moved back, got some extra picks, and now is the time to get a really, really solid contributor in Jared Verse. I think an edge too for this team in the long run, like having a nice cheap contract with the rest of the defensive players that are getting paid, is going to be a very, very solid move. We ended up getting our extra draft capital back. So now you have Keenan Allen and Jared Verse essentially for free. At pick number 12 for the Denver Broncos, this is another franchise where, you're looking at the guys on the board. I love Terry and Arnold for this team, but that's not going to be the big difference maker. Also, the Denver Broncos aren't really super desperate for a defensive back at the moment. It's one of the few positions that are, acceptable on the team. I do know a team that would be dying for Terry and Arnold, though. He's a phenomenal player, cerebral mind. He's my number 3 player in the class. And I know a perfect trade partner for them. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Philadelphia at pick number 22, if you actually look at the point value, 22 and 50 is pretty close to pick number 12. And the defensive line for Denver is not great. I know you got Nick Bonito in there, and you got some dudes who are talented, but I still think that you'd be also, by the way, PFF, learn how to actually update your rosters, like Derek Barnett, seriously. But I think Hassan Reddick would be a really good mentor because I don't think your guys have really stepped up. I think Jonathan Cooper should have kicked to the inside a little bit. He's listed as an outside linebacker per Our Lads, but I think Hassan will be tossed in as part of this deal. Maybe you get pick 147 return as well to make up for that differential in the point value with Hassan Reddick. But basically, the Broncos are going to acquire that second round pick. The Eagles are moving up, and they select one of the most versatile players in the entire draft in Terrion Arnold. At pick number 13 for the Las Vegas Raiders, it sucks that we didn't really get to maximize our value in terms of the picks, right? Because I love Quinion Mitchell. I love Terrion Arnold to this team. And this might be a good opportunity to trade back, but I just don't see any teams that are desperate to trade up. So you got some really good tackles on the board. I know Thayer Mumford's suggested as the starting right tackle, but if you actually look at where Tali Fuaga has fallen, he not only can play an elite tier right tackle, but some teams actually genuinely believe he could play right guard and play it at almost a Hall of Fame level, which I wouldn't be against. I just think that would be a waste of talent because he actually can play tackle. So the Raiders have a gaping hole at right guard. He would instantly fill that. Or he would even upgrade the right tackle spot, and you can maybe kick Thayer Mumford inside. The versatility and the addition of the power in the run game is exactly what I'd want. Also, I love Tolly paired up with Dylan Parham. I love that idea. It's a great vision for the team. The Raiders end up getting Tali Fuaga, and you have that extra mobility for Justin Fields, who we ended up trading that 5th round pick for, plus a conditional 5th. At pick number 14 for the New Orleans Saints. This is a team where you have some great players on the board, right? You got Olu Fashanu, you got Troy Fautanu, you got Byron Murphy. There's some really good players here, right? And it's hard to believe that this team would necessarily move off of this spot. Here's the big issue. They just signed Cedric Wilson. They just released Michael Thomas. Their wide receiver core is really thin. If I'm not mistaken, they have 4 guys on roster right now, and that includes Cedric Wilson. You got A.T. Perry, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave. There's a lot on Chris Olave's shoulders. Cedric Wilson's not a every down starter. You got a 2-year deal. Numbers aren't out yet, so maybe that's not true. But you can go right down the road from the Bayou, going all the way to Baton Rouge, and you can get a stud in Brian Thomas. I think that's worth it. I really do. Brian Thomas is a phenomenal player, and he deserves to be a top 15 pick in this draft. So Brian Thomas is the selection. At pick number 15, we have the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to quickly make this selection as Brock Bowers because Brock brings a new element to the offense, in addition in blocking, but also Jelani Woods hasn't been healthy. I just don't trust him to continue to be healthy, and it's a big hole on the roster. You ended up paying $23 million a year for Michael Pittman Jr., which I think will end up being a very solid deal. So you have your wide receiver core relatively locked down. Now you get Brock Bowers added to that list. And again, he helps out in the run game as well. So that's going to be a big plus for Anthony Richardson. Pick number 16 for the Seahawks. So we have adjusted the picks, and I think this is a prime opportunity to be able to move down. They really do lack proper draft capital at the moment. Again, this is updated for the Sam Howell trade. Sam Howell trade I think is awesome because Sam does have a ton of untapped potential. He's a cheap backup to have, and he's been able to at least show that he has the potential to be a starter. So good mobility. I think he fits in the system very, very well. But Seattle, they should be picking up the phone because A.D. Mitchell's here. And A.D. Mitchell is kind of that last first-round quality wide receiver that's worth being a top 20 pick. A.D. Mitchell is a top 10 player on my board as well. There are some star offensive tackles here in Fautanu, Fashanu, and more, which we'll talk about Fashanu soon because he's a guy who will either go top 10 or else he'll slip quite a bit. I think the Seattle Seahawks would be bright just to not move too far away. Not to move too far. because I think the Jaguars are going to get a little bit desperate. A little bit desperate. And this is a 50-point differential, 950 to 1,000 points, which is roughly based on pick number 114. We traded away a 3rd-round pick and got a 4th-round pick. We're getting another 4th-round pick added to the mix. And this is a prime opportunity for Jacksonville just to make sure that they get their guy, because I could totally see a couple teams getting a little bit desperate for a wide receiver who is in that 6'2", 205+ pound mold range and has crazy ability. So the Jaguars end up moving up just one spot and end up selecting their star receiver in Adonai Mitchell. They ended up losing out on, unfortunately, their former wide receiver in Calvin Ridley, but for that price tag, maybe not so unfortunate. At pick number 17, though, Seahawks ended up gaining that little extra pick, which is very nice. Maybe it'll come into factor later on if we want to make a move up with them from pick number 81. I think this is the prime opportunity to go after Troy Fautanu. Their right guard spot, vacant. Their left guard spot, vacant. And the best thing about this is Troy can play that left guard spot, and if you end up continuing to see injury issues with Abe Lucas, you have someone who can play tackle. So I love that flexibility. You also keep him right there in Washington. So Troy Fautanu goes to the Seattle Seahawks. At pick number 18, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. And you got Olu Fashanu here. With DJ Reader ending up signing with the Detroit Lions, it does make it a little bit more of an issue. I think trading up because you look at Byron Murphy, he's 30 pounds lighter than DJ Reader. Like, you're going to be looking at a Tavondre Sweat type to be able to fill that role. Now, we could end up trading back here and ending up targeting him. The question is, what teams are actually that desperate for a left tackle or a right tackle? And you could see the Chargers being in that mix. Absolutely. I don't think that would be out of the realm of possibility at all. But I could also see the Dallas Cowboys getting very excited for this. They still haven't brought back Tyron Smith. And Jerry says he wants to go all in. Go all in, bro. Do it. So that's exactly what we're going to do, because I could see the Rams being one of those teams that goes and selects Olu Fashanu. I don't think the Bengals would be it wouldn't be the smartest decision for the Bengals to move, to be able to move back to just one spot and end up selecting him. It's going to be more financially responsible as well to pay a little bit of a cheaper contract to a nose tackle. 18 to 24 is 900 all the way down to 740. That's a 160-point differential right there. That's roughly worth, funnily enough, pick number 85, which we have pick number, technically pick 86. Pick 87 is literally identical compensation. I think the Bengals would be perfectly fine with this. I don't think they need to pay too much of a premium to be able to move up. Maybe you toss in like a future 7th. Maybe you toss in like some bum, or maybe like a 2026 7th round pick. It's really going to make absolutely no difference. The Bengals have a lot of draft capital, but this class just doesn't have anything in terms of nose tackle ability to actually replace the nose tackle spot. And yes, it's not a huge value position for many teams, but it is for the Bengals. Also, if you need to end up getting a right tackle, you can get one there. So we actually ended up moving back and ended up getting crazy good value for the Dallas Cowboys to move up for their star left tackle in Olu Fashanu. At pick number 19 for the Los Angeles Rams, Aaron Donald just retired. R.I.P. to Aaron Donald. Got to see him actually in Los Angeles one time in a Ralph's grocery store. The dude had an entire cart of just Slim Jims. I'm not joking. Just Slim Jims. Don't know what that was about. But Byron Murphy seems to be the premier option at the moment. Technically, Larry Jackson brought back on a tender for $5 million. Whoop-de-doo. But there's no left tackle that I think would be worth at this point. Byron Murphy is essentially going to be that Aaron Donald mold. At pick number 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we are going to be targeting our right tackle spot, and we're going to be kicking back our beloved right tackle to left tackle in Broderick Jones. I think Amarius Mims would be the primary option here for that chemistry, even though injury does make me question whether I'd go JC or Amarius. I'm going to just go after the guy who looks like he's built on Mount Olympus and pray that he stays healthy. At pick number 21 for the Miami Dolphins, this offensive line's absolutely depleted. Taron Armstead did say that he's trying to come back for 1 extra year, which is great. Jackson Powers-Johnson grew up as a Dolphins fan. It just makes perfect sense. At pick number 22, we got the Denver Broncos. They've moved back. They've been able to acquire good draft capital. They ended up getting Hassan Reddick as well. Yes, there's going to be some pushback there, and I understand, but Hassan Reddick is also just going to be a really good veteran who brings an instant impact to this roster that you're not going to find anywhere in the draft or on your roster as is for the edge core. Pick number 22, this needs to be a QB. It has to be. And we could trade back again, but realistically, there are teams that might be willing to move up and snipe their quarterbacks, and teams do value quarterback position quite a bit. This team has absolutely nothing at their cornerbacks or at their quarterback spot. And Bo Nix, Michael Penix, both of them phenomenal, but I think Bo Nix fits a little bit more of what the Broncos are going to be looking for in terms of that mobility and that game manager ability. So Bo Nix is going to be the choice. And again, remember, good players fall in the draft, so just keep that in mind as well. The Los Angeles Chargers are back on the board. They ended up giving up pick 69 to acquire essentially pick 23 in that trade back with Minnesota. So they could be on the move again. I think J.C. Latham wouldn't be an awful idea for them here. I think also Cooper DeJean would be pretty damn awesome to have on their squad. They're looking for that corner too, and someone who could really make a difference. And Cooper DeJean is exactly that. And looking at the other teams that are coming up, you could certainly see quite a few competitors getting very excited, including your playoff competitors with the Bills, getting very excited for a versatile defensive back like Cooper DeJean. The Niners would love it. The Chiefs, honestly, would love it. So I think this is a great opportunity to weaken the other franchises. You ended up getting Rome Odunze. Now get Cooper DeJean. And obviously Big Ten bias right there with Harbaugh, but Cooper DeJean's a phenomenal player. He's just coming back from a leg fracture, which technically isn't that big of a deal because it's not muscular. At pick 24, we ended up moving back with the Bengals, and I was talking about going after nose tackle here with T'Vondre Sweat. I changed my mind. This is a live mock draft after all. You got J.C. Latham slipping here. You can't let that slip past. I know we're bringing Mekhi Becton in for, he's at least coming to check out the team. But you have J.C. Latham on the board. You can't say Mekhi Becton's going to reliably be healthy enough. This is a crazy value for the team, and I honestly think this would be a great opportunity for the Bengals to move back up to select T'Vondre Sweat. It's a big, big, big asset in the defense to go after nose tackle, but sometimes you got to protect your most valuable asset, which is Joe Burrow. At pick 25, we moved back with the Jets. The wide receiver core is buns, but we ended up getting a good amount of draft capital. I think Ladd McConkey might be pretty awesome in this squad, but Keon Coleman gets me excited. I will just say it depends on your logic, because I have two thoughts here. You can go Keon Coleman, and Keon Coleman's going to be a great, great combo with Garrett Wilson, and this team needs it. Or, because you got Morgan Moses there for 1 year, you can go Tyler Guyton, and I'm like 99% sure that you're going to get David Bakhtiari. Like 99% sure. But David Bakhtiari also is so unreliably healthy. I think you need to have a contingency plan in place. And I think Tyler Guyton needs to be the pick. This is a deep wide receiver class, technically a deep tackle class as well. But Tyler Guyton is awesome. And I think he needs to be a selection by pick number 25. So he ends up going there to the New York Jets. At pick number 26 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's a lot of really good options available. Laiatu Latu is one of them. He's somebody that could be slipping because of that neck. This edge class is a little bit iffy. Latu is a very talented player, but he has short arms. He's, primarily best in a 2-point stance. Like, it's a very unique system. But Yaya Diaby technically is a starting outside linebacker pass rusher for you. And I think Latu's value is significantly better. Nate Wiggins, though, to be your nickelback would be actually crazy value. Ended up getting rid of Carlton Davis for a 3rd-round pick, which, heyo, let's make sure that was already factored in, and it is. So good job by PFF for doing that. But Carlton Davis trade already factored in. Your secondary was Zion McCollum, because I was a big Zion McCollum believer, certainly is capable. And, Nate Wiggins is up to 182 pounds. Randomly, he didn't run a 40, though. Drops a 173, runs a fast 40. all of a sudden gains weight, doesn't run the 40. Tests out smooth, as he should. But also Graham Barton should be on that list as well. But this interior offensive line class looks really solid. Looking at the picks that you have, what are you going to be able to grab at 89 and 92? I trust a nickelback would be there. I'm going to go Leatu Latu. I don't trust a really good edge rusher to be there. At pick 27 for the Cardinals, my dream pick actually would be Leatu Latu for him, but that's not going to be the case. You brought on Jonah Williams. We've already drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Technically, you could go after another wide receiver like Ladd McConkey here, but I think that'd be poor asset management. Defensive interior still is pretty buns. You ended up bringing on 2 guys in the offseason, and, I think it's Justin Jones, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy, but Jerzon Newton actually has a bona fide starting role in this team. And this is a great opportunity for him to do so. He's a great block shedder, and I think Gannon would appreciate adding Jerzon Newton's talents to that squad. Pick number 28 for the Buffalo Bills. Tough to pass on Nate Wiggins here. Like, Nate Wiggins is a phenomenal player. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry here as well. I don't think that corner is as big of an issue as maybe I think it could be. But at the same time, it is what it is. We still have a really solid quarterback on the board as well in Michael Penix Jr. There should be some teams that might be lurking for one, but to be fair, we ended up selecting a lot of them very, very early on. Not really a huge issue at the moment to solve, and not many teams that would necessarily need to press the ante. Now, the Buffalo Bills just ended up paying Curtis Samuel. It's very tough to believe that they would be back on the wide receiver market with the options available. Now, I do think that certain teams should try to move up to select their guy. And one of those teams that's acquired a lot of really nice draft capital is the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers do need to have that number 1 wide receiver still. You got Deontay Johnson there, but why not get Deontay Johnson as George Pickens? I know that Bills fans are going to be mad because you don't want Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel to be your wide receiver 2 and 3. But this is also a deep receiving class, and you don't need a bona fide starter. Those are legitimate bona fide starters. I wouldn't go that crazy about it. So, we're going to go up with the Panthers. Looking at this trade value here, 28 to 33. So 28 is 660, 33 is 580. Quick math, that looks about 80 points. 80 points is about pick number 107 and higher. And we have pick number 101. And so 101 is going to be 96 points. So that technically is 16. We could actually get a pick back here. And that's going to be actually, Buffalo's pick 189. It's worth 15.8 points. So I think that's perfectly fair. We end up giving Carolina maybe some extra value. Okay, we'll be polite and send them pick 248. Whoop-de-doo. The Bills don't need the pick 248. It's not going to affect the mock draft anyways. But the Carolina Panthers technically add a pick, but they end up selecting their star boundary wide receiver here. Not in Ladd McConkey, because I think Deontay Johnson would be very similar in that role, but Keon Coleman, star wide receiver out of Florida State. At pick 29 for the Detroit Lions, I really love Nate Wiggins to the squad, even though they already have Carlton Davis, Emmanuel Mosley on a 1-year deal, even though it's like a $2.87 million deal. Not a big deal, I guess, pun intended. But this team could certainly be looking at the interior of the offensive line. Ended up re-signing Graham to, I believe, a cheap 3-year deal. But, Jonah Jackson's gone. It's kind of a big issue. And this could be a prime opportunity to grab someone who is super versatile in Graham Barton at this point. But we do need to look at other options for this team as well. I do think going after a developmental edge rusher like Chop Robinson at this point is totally worth that investment. I love Marshawn Nealon to this team, that dark horse first-round pick in my books. But we're going to go after Chop Robinson here because that athleticism is there and the intricacy is not. Versus you have Aiden Hutchinson that is going to be an unbelievable mentor to Chop Robinson. So the ceiling is there. He's already shown it in that Illinois game, being like one of the most jaw-dropping players that I've seen. And now you actually have someone who could coach him to be more consistently like that player. At pick 30 for the Baltimore Ravens, offensive tackle, I actually think wouldn't be a bad idea for this team. Trade back wouldn't be out of the realm either. You ended up trading away your 35-year-old veteran in Morgan Moses, so I do worry about that right tackle spot, and Kingsley Suamataia is actually a great choice here. Not only is it a great choice for the Baltimore Ravens, specifically, you're also giving the middle finger to the Niners, where that is literally my pick every single time. So we're going to be going after Kingsley Suamataia because he upgrades. And also, Ronnie Stanley's not even reliably healthy in the first place, so he could kick to the left tackle in case Faalele actually has a chance to be good. I'm a little bit more pessimistic on that. But essentially, you're pressing the Niners to go pure corner or Graham Barton rather than getting their actual answer at right tackle, which I think is worth the pick. Pick number 31 for the San Francisco 49ers. Nate Wiggins is here. It's kind of impossible to pass on him. You know, you got Kool-Aid McKinstry as well. But I don't know because Kool-Aid's technically athletically limited. If you end up looking at Terrion Arnold, Terrion is a superior athlete to Kool-Aid McKinstry. Also, Kool-Aid did have that Jones fracture in his foot. He will most likely be slipping for that reason. I love him. I think Kool-Aid is technically better than Nate Wiggins. But Nate Wiggins is the better, technically, coverage corner. Just Nate is not as versatile in my book. So we're actually going to go Nate Wiggins here. Graham Barton, he's a great player, but I also know that the Niners could probably snag somebody at pick 63, and I personally think the Niners aren't really going to go after an offensive lineman in round 1 unless it's a guaranteed right tackle. And at pick 32, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. And also, I was debating actually trading out with the Lions again, not remembering that, you know, the draft is literally in Detroit. But at pick number 32, the Kansas City Chiefs are here. Ended up bringing on Marquise Hollywood Brown for a nice 1-year contract. There's just no room for Olad McConkey. There's not really much room for anything on this roster, to be fair. Like, this roster does have a lot of really good talent. I think we're going to end up trading L'Jarius Sneed. So we're going to end up taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, by the way. I think that is worth taking the risk. You could end up going after another one of these players, absolutely. But, you know, Kool-Aid at this point might be worth it. That physicality and, you know, his actual instincts are incredible. Nate Wiggins would have been the ideal choice, but we are going to make a L'Jarius Sneed trade here. And a lot of teams are, in quotes, aggressively pursuing this trade. I can see a team like the Tennessee Titans, who have just addressed their wide receiver issue and addressed their offensive line issue, being very excited to send their second round pick for him. So, you know, it does limit Tennessee in terms of their flexibility overall. It will be tough to pay both of those players, but you do have a rookie quarterback on contract. You do have flexibility in terms of being able to, you know, shift the payments and restructures, etc. But you technically could send him to Jacksonville, but I am actually going to send him to Tennessee because I do think Tennessee would be the type to be a little bit more like aggressive there on the end of night 1. So we end up sending L'Jarius Sneed to Tennessee. Keep that in mind for tomorrow. But we end up allowing Kansas City to, I mean, I was already having an issue with them selecting here at pick 32. Now I just added pick 38 as well. Oops. We're going to go Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think that if you don't have L'Jarius Sneed, Kool-Aid's value, even if he's going to be just a pure depth corner, like his high-level play is as good, if not better, than every other corner in this class. Corner is an extremely valuable position, and this is just a great way to be able to have some good level of physicality, and you have that safety flexibility as well. So that is going to be the video. Stay tuned tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all. See you on the far side. Peace.